Hi, I'm Edward Thompson, your host on Pictures on My Mind. Here we are in my cellar. I am a professional photographer of over 20 years experience. I've had work in Natural Graphic magazine, been on thousands of assignments and published a fair few photo books. Now, some of you might have just stumbled on this video because you saw me saying, hey, the guy who photographed 1 million photographs. Newsflash, man, I've photographed 1 million photographs. Lots of people have photographed 1 million photographs, and you know what? They could all be bad. The reason why hopefully you're going to continue watching is I had the amazing esteem, honour and privilege to help Homer Sykes, who's a great British photographer, film a crowdfunding video. And right at the end, I cheekily asked him a few questions to do with basically perception. And yeah, he's done a bunch of books over the years. These are some of the books he's published with Dowie Lewis, and The Annual Affair is a new book that's out now, and that's continuing that series. So yes, advice. Why would you listen to him? Well, I'll tell you why. Because he's done it for 55 years, right? Like, I've done this for 25 years, every day, being a photographer, photographing, seeing, right? I can't get my head around how he's done that for so long and yet also still so passionate about it. It's wonderful. So anyway, here's 7 minutes with Homer Sykes, and in a coming video I will get into his photo books. This one in particular is really cool because you know I shoot square format. Well, if you don't, I do. And he's got a great book that he shot of square format photographs. And yeah, that's something that I'm going to look forward to in a future episode. Thank you. So how long have you been a photographer?
55 years.
And how many photos do you reckon you've taken?
Photos, well, millions. But the important thing is not how many photographs you've taken. It's how you've edited them and whether they're available. And, you know, it's what you see and why you see it and why you looked at it. Or it's what you see and how you interpreted what you've seen and why you looked. And the important thing is that when you're looking, you're actually seeing stuff and recognizing it as being important. And that, for me, is what it's actually all about. I mean, there are no end of photographers that go out and photograph stuff on the street, but they're not actually seeing anything. They're just looking and taking pictures. That's really quite dull. It's okay. They're having fun. But, you know, if you want to make a comment, you've got to know why you're looking at something and what you're seeing, and it's how you interpret that seeing. And then, of course, you've got to edit properly. Yes. You see a scene coming together, and you just stay there with it. And you're looking at the background as well the whole time, because, you know, however good the foreground is, if the background's no use, it's completely blown out. So there's, again, and people don't, you know, amateurs don't think about that. They're just keen on what they've got in the foreground. The background is almost as important as the foreground. The only time it actually isn't is if you're shooting a kind of a hard news picture and you've caught some amazing hard news moment, then it doesn't matter what happens in the background. I mean, obviously you want it to be good. I mean, there's a classic moment, and of course I don't know the name of the photographer, but somebody's being executed by a soldier in Vietnam, and the photographer just was there and raised his camera and took a picture at that moment. And the background's pretty good, but not great. But it doesn't matter. It's absolutely that essential moment. But for ordinary general photography, you've got to be thinking about the foreground and the background, working towards it. And when you make 3 or 4 frames, maybe the third or the fourth frame's the one, then you shoot on a couple more. You probably know it when you've taken it. But the problem is people blink and close their eyes and stuff moves just like that in the back. And so you have to have those 2 or 3 other frames.
Do you think there's something to be said for... Because I started out shooting film, digital didn't exist. And I remember being on assignments where I would keep shooting because I didn't know I had the shot. Whereas with the advent of digital, you can look at the back of the camera and think, oh, that's enough for the day, I've got that, that's pretty good. Whereas when you were shooting film, you just didn't know. You just kind of kept ploughing on, right?
Yeah, you kept yes. I mean, when you were shooting film, it's you don't really know what you've got until you get into the lab and look at it, basically. With digital, of course, you can look at what you've got pretty much immediately. And so consequently, we don't shoot, or I don't anyhow, shoot as many images when I know I've got it. But then, you know, you've got to do the edit. And often you think you've got it, and then when you put the edit together and you produce a little story from those pictures, you think, God's truth, I wish I'd just shot a few more. And why didn't I do that? And why didn't I think about a vertical as well as a horizontal? And so, you know, it's too easy to think, oh, I've got the picture. But, you know, basically you may have to shoot, you know, maybe the client will want, you know, 10 pictures rather than 4 pictures. Or maybe you'll put the images into a stock library and you'll need, you know, more than just the one picture that you think is the perfect one. So yeah, it's just a different way of working. It's not a different way of seeing, because seeing is always the important thing and how you interpret what you've seen.
Because I've got this little mantra, and I think I was at one of Philip Jones Griffiths' last talks, and it's a mantra. I think he said, I might even be imagining it, but he said something like, the more you see, the more you know, the more you know, the more you see. And for me, it's that idea.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. The more you see, the more you know. The more you know, the more you see. Yes, that's absolutely. That's a fantastic.
He might have said it. I might have just imagined it.
Well,
I've been saying it a lot.
but fine. I mean, that's great. It's it's mind made. It's I made. It's hand made. There's no AI involved.
Yeah.
You know, it's the mind that makes the picture. The hand presses a button. And there's no AI involved. It's mind-made, handmade, mind-made, eye-made, hand. So the mind tells the eye to see. You take it with your fingers, but really the hand part is the post-production, really, tweaking it a little bit here, tweaking it a little bit there, and there should be no AI involved.
Because obviously, I've been on assignments where I've seen other press photographers there, and I start photographing something, and they didn't even see it as a picture.
Yeah. Well, the press photographers are a great bunch of guys, and they have to do a job of work, and they have to basically beat their competition that's standing right next to them. I mean, that's what it's about, you know. It's getting that picture that all the other guys have got and trying to get a better one. Well, as a freelance who couldn't compete with daily news people, I was always looking for all of the aside things, the background story that goes towards making the pictures work the following week, because I used to work a lot for Newsweek and Time and Now Magazine and New Society. We were photographing news features that were coming out the following week. So you had to have all the black background in place. And those are the pictures that I sell now more than anything else. It's all the stuff that adds to the event.
It's like the press guys would be there for the grip and grim photo. But
Yeah.
once the day's over, who wants that image? Whereas it's all the other photos that are...
Well, absolutely, yeah. It's all the context that actually counts at the end of the day. Because, and especially if you're freelance, why would you have a grip and grin and be sharing that with 10 other photographers or 30 or 40 ones? You've all got essentially the same picture.
But that's what the PR companies do. They line them up in like a shooting gallery, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's
But
PR
anyway,
for you.
back to it.